Hi, I'm Sherri Kreps, your spiritual fitness coach. When I think of kindness, I think of love in action. We might do something nice for someone, give assistance, or show generosity. While we often show kindness by giving something to someone in need, today I want to consider how we can show kindness in the time we invest in others. I don't know about you, but with the current pace of life, I sometimes find it easier to provide something that I can purchase for someone than investing my own time. The reality is we all have 24 hours in a day, and how we spend it is an indicator of what or who we value. Jesus was the master at knowing who needed him and showing kindness through his investment of time. In Mark 5, we read this story. And when Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered about him, and he was beside the sea. Then came one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name, and seeing him, he fell at his feet and implored him earnestly, saying, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, so that she may be well and live." And he went with him. I think we can all relate to the sense of urgency in Jairus' voice, fearful that his daughter was about to die. He needed Jesus' healing power, and he needed it now. Jesus immediately left to go with him. Here's our first example of Jesus investing his time. Jesus is the Son of God. Did he really need to be with Jairus' daughter to heal her? Could he have healed her from a distance? Sure, he could have. But the Bible says he went with him, no questions asked. Meanwhile, and a great crowd followed him and thronged about him. And there was a woman who had had a discharge of blood for 12 years, and who had suffered much under many physicians, and had spent all she had, and was no better, but rather grew worse. Can you relate to this woman? For 12 years, she had been suffering with bleeding. Can you imagine the number of doctors that she saw over 12 years? Can you imagine how hopeless she must have felt, having sought help for 12 years and spending all she had, yet was getting worse? Yet, she had hope. She had heard the reports about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, "If I touch even his garments, I will be made well." And immediately the flow of blood dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. And Jesus, perceiving in himself that power had gone out from him, immediately turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my garments?" And his disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing around you, and yet you say, 'Who touched me?'" And he looked around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." Think about this scene. Jesus is immediately needed at the home of a dying child. A mere touch of his garment was all that was needed to heal the woman. She touched him and was immediately well. Yet, Jesus stopped and took the time to interact with her. He changed her life by taking time to have a conversation with her. Even though he had something urgent to attend to, he stopped. He listened. He affirmed that her faith had made her well. Then he blessed her to go in peace. While he was still speaking, there came from the ruler's house some who said, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe." And he allowed no one to follow him except Peter and James and John, the brother of James. They came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and Jesus saw a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. And when he had entered, he said to them, "Why are you making a commotion and weeping? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. But he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. Taking her by the hand, he said to her, "Talita cumi," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." And immediately the girl got up and began walking, for she was 12 years of age. and they were immediately overcome with amazement. And he strictly charged them that no one should know this, and told them to give her something to eat. While Jesus' presence was not necessary for the bleeding woman or Jairus' daughter to be healed, he was there. He showed his kindness by being there, giving his time. Each day, we all encounter people who need us to show kindness by giving them our time. In addition to those, there are numerous people who feel lonely and isolated and would love a visit. They want to be heard, affirmed, and blessed. Do you want to win today in showing kindness through your gift of time? Let me challenge you with these 2 action steps. First, when you encounter others, even if you are in a hurry, take time to speak and listen to them in a way that shows them that they are valued. This might be with your spouse, your children, your coworkers, friends, or neighbors. Jesus' example shows us that taking the time to interact with someone can be life-changing for them. Secondly, take an inventory of how you spend your 24 hours each day. Are there things that take up your time and keep you from investing in something more important or more productive, like mindless scrolling on your phone or too much TV? If so, make a conscious effort to eliminate some of those things so you are free to give your time to something more meaningful. You will never regret the decision to devote your time to serving and blessing others like Jesus did. Now, go win today.